Welcome to Advocates for Change, a show that shines the spotlight on individuals and movements making a real impact, not just in our community, but sometimes in the world. I'm Caroline Shoenberger, your host for this empowering journey. The mission of the show is to inspire change, especially now, to share stories that resonate with the heart, stories of courage, resilience, and innovation, which is what we're going to do today. Advocates for Change is not just a TV show. It's a platform for voices that need to be heard, for ideas that need to be explored, and for actions that demand our attention. I am the executive director of the Shoenberger Public Interest Law Foundation. Our work is to assist our clients and other nonprofits achieve their missions. Prior to creating my foundation, I served as the Commissioner of Consumer Services for the City of Chicago, as the Cook County Assistant State's Attorney, as a member of the faculty member of the Business Department at Harold Washington College, and as the Supervising Attorney for the Immigration Program at the Chicago Legal Clinic. Also, I currently volunteer at organizations such as Chicago Volunteer Legal Services. As we dive into today's episode, we encourage you to join the media. Share your thoughts, ideas, and stories of change happening in your community, and together we can amplify these voices and make a difference. So I am thrilled today to introduce, I won't say a family member, but a family member is involved in the organization called Yes Ma'am Circus. So Amancay Kugler is the executive director of Yes Ma'am Circus, and I'm going to say welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, please tell us about yourself and then about the organization.
Of course. So, as you said, my name is Amancay Kugler, and I'm the executive director for Yes Ma'am Circus. Basically, I like to tell people that means I do all the spreadsheets. I am also a circus performer, although since I have 2 toddlers at home, that's a little bit on a hiatus at the moment while I focus on directing and producing shows, private events, and other kinds of circus-related activities.
So this is something very special and something very, I think, unique, because when we think of the circus, we think of animals, although I don't think we have animals anymore in circuses.
It's pretty traditional circus.
Very traditional, but Yes Ma'am Circus isn't. Tell us about Yes Ma'am Circus.
Yeah, so we're what we call a contemporary circus company. And there's actually quite a few of these, especially in Chicago, which is a really rich, vibrant city for circus, in large part because of small or smaller contemporary companies like Yes Ma'am. Now, that means we don't use animals. That's just a lot of training and a lot of expense, and none of us are gonna touch that. We're a people-only circus, and a lot of our shows are focused a bit less on the boom, hey kind of trick pause for applause that you might see at a traditional circus, although we still really do like the applause. Keep that coming. But
and you got my applause.
We, particularly our company, strive to have a more storied experience. So if you come to one of our shows, you're going to see characters, you're going to see plot, you're going to see narrative. And in this way, we use circus arts as just another medium of telling a story, like you would a musical or an opera or a theatrical play.
And how long has Yes Ma'am Circus been here in Chicago?
We incorporated in 2018, which I still think it's 2020, so, not too much time.
Well,
but actually quite a few years now. And we did recently also become a nonprofit. So that was a lot of paperwork, and I'm really thrilled we finally achieved that status.
That's great. No, that's great. It's and it's helpful.
Incredibly so, yes.
So tell me, what are your plans for the summer? I talked a little bit before about some great plans that you have.
So one of our big things is, and you can see this, story time with Chicago's Night Out in the Parks, hosted by the Parks District. And story time is one of our more what we call cabaret style shows. Now that means that there isn't a central plot line and there aren't, interacting characters. It's more, hey, here's an act, watch the act. Hey, here's another act, watch the act. But like with all of our shows, we do try to make it a bit more complex. And so Storytime incorporates myths and legends from around the world. And now some are the ones you're familiar with. We had The Big Bad Wolf last year, done by Camille Swift. Brilliant. And, we've had a mermaid act, not Ariel, that's copyrighted, but a different mermaid. But we also have ones that people might have heard of but be less familiar with, like The Monkey King or Anansi. And then ones that even I hadn't heard of, particularly this year we have Seneus, which is an ancient Greek myth of one of the first trans warriors. And beautiful act done by Lucas Grief. I'm so thrilled he made it for us.
So so the Park District has Night Out in the Parks. Tell us a little bit about the program.
Sure thing. So it's a bit of a misnomer, which I was surprised about when I first applied. They're not all at night. All of our shows are in the day. So Night Out in the Parks is a bunch of free things happening around Chicago, and ours is just one small facet of it. We have 6 shows. 2 have happened already. We did them for some real cute preschoolers and a couple of day campers. And we have our next show coming up this Sunday, the 21st of July. And that one is open to the public down in Big Marsh. I think I'm driving like 26 miles from my house to get there.
I don't even know where Big Marsh is.
It's on par with Calumet. Somehow it's still Chicago. I promise it's still in the city, technically.
So on the screen, we have your flyer.
Yep.
That's information with a QR code that you can go on and get more information.
Yep, and you can see all of the dates and parks. After this show at Big Marsh, we're taking a little bit of a break for August, and our next 3 shows will be in September. They're all 5:30 to 6:30 in a couple different parks. You can see Winnemac, Valley Forge, and Maplewood. This will be a little bit cooler, a little bit nicer to hang out and watch, not quite so blazing hot sun.
So all of this is in Chicago?
All of this is in Chicago, from the northernmost to the southernmost limit and all the way out west.
Well, that's great. And who participates in
Yes,
Yes Ma'am?
Because we're a relatively small company and because of the gig economy, contract-based nature of this kind of circus work, we don't have employees per se. It's not like I have, 5 people who rehearse every single week. We don't got time for that. Everyone's got other jobs to do. But I have a fairly large cast of people that I call on and contract for various gigs and shows. Now, these people include Scott Priz, who is one of our board members and just a delightful clown and trapeze artist.
He's teaching clowns now.
Yes, he is. I've taken his class. It's phenomenal. I love it. My daughter also loved it. She's 5.
I look forward to seeing him in his first jury trial.
It's going to be wild.
Absolutely wild.
It's going to be a great time. So Scott's one of our regulars. We also have Lucas Grief, as I mentioned, who is a fantastic artist as well as an advocate for LGBTQ rights and our board member in charge of, I got this, inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And he's just been a wonderful asset for that. Other people you might see include Camille Swift from Aloft, Eric Robinson.
Jim Priz, too?
Jim Priz doesn't do our summer shows as much because he has stuff to do, I believe. But he does routinely help out as a stagehand and as a rigger and occasionally as, God bless him, an audience plant. Last time he was an audience plant, they made him wear an actual plant on his head.
Oh, did they really?
That man is precious.
So the show coming up on Sunday, what's going to be in the show?
That would require me to remember who I cast for Sunday's show. I believe we have Erin's Mermaid Act, which is just a wonderful act done in aerial net. So it looks like a sling, it hangs from 2 points, but it also looks like a fishing net. It has like all the holes in it and everything. So how she doesn't get tangled in it, I don't know. It's
Is she
phenomenal.
hanging from a trapeze or?
No, the net connects directly to our portable rig, which is a 4-legged quad pod, goes up to a square at the top. And we can set it up basically anywhere, indoors, outdoors. It has, self-leveling feet for the grass and goes up to 23 feet.
So it's like a suspended dance as
Basically,
a mermaid. Does she have a tail of a mermaid?
She has fin leggings that she keeps her legs together for the whole act until she's ready to bust out. And then there's a very dramatic reveal of 2 legs, 2 tails in this case. It is quite something. I saw the act for the first time during our day camper shows, and they were so good.
What other acts are you going to have?
I am honestly trying to remember who I
Well, who do you have just in general? What kind of acts in general?
So, mentioned before, one of our new acts this year is Seneus, a Greek trans warrior, born a female, changed to male with impenetrable skin, and fought centaurs, and that's done by Luke Grief on trapeze, and is just a stunning, stunning act. Scott Priz, when he is recovered from his travel illness, will be doing King Richard. I believe he will be singing on the trapeze. I'm very excited to see it. It's going to be great. The past couple of years, he did the Trojan War. It was an interactive clown act. We had a cardboard horse that on it said, "Horse, not a trap." It was very believable. And we had small children carry it into battle and throw water balloons at us. It was great on the 86-degree day.
I'm sure.
It was really fun. Also, I got to be Helen of Troy, which was just a dream come true right there. We also have Maria Tate joining us this year. She is new to the company, and they were in Cambodia for 2 years, doing circus in Cambodia. So with the assistance of coworkers and mentors there, they've actually been able to bring Cambodian myth over. The Princess Rum Sai Sak, who soaks up a whole ocean with her long magical hair and saves a prince from an alligator attack. We have a puppet alligator. It's really great.
So you park all the way down south, and then.
Yeah, Big Marsh all the way down south. Our most north one was this past week up in Brooks Park, which is really close to my house in Skokie. So that was, we span a pretty wide distance.
It sounds wonderful. It sounds wonderful. And
it's a good time.
When you're in the parks, it's free, correct?
Yes, it's completely free, so you can come, and if you hate it, you can just leave. There's no problem.
But do you also have shows where people can purchase tickets to?
Yes. So one of our main forms of income outside of these free shows are private gigs. And that's, you pay us money, we come to your birthday party, we come to your wedding, we do cute corporate style stuff. It's fun. It can be really nice, it's really versatile. But we also have our third form of revenue, which is creating shows, selling tickets to them. You come, you sit, you watch the big narrative show.
I've been to a few of your shows. It's
just a few.
Yeah,
I think we're 100% attendance.
It's they're wonderful. Well, I have to see Scott.
Well, yes, of course. But yeah, so past shows that you've seen have included 12th Night, done through Circus, which was delightful.
Malvolio.
Oh, Scott as Malvolio. There was no question. He was always going to do that. That character was always going to be Scott. Got to see my husband perform as Duke Orsino, which seeing my husband as a sad drama boy was very funny and very entertaining. We also had a character fighting a puppet of themselves because they were doubling up on characters and had to duel themselves. So that was Maggie. That was a great time. Bizarre. And most recently, we've had Alice in Circus Land. We cut a lot of the characters, a lot of the dialogue. We do that frequently when we're reinterpreting literary classics because we have circus acts to fit in instead. But, we had Scott as our Mad Hatter. I got to be Alice, which was really fun for me. At the time the show went live, I was 6 months postpartum from my second child, Gabriel. So I had fairly limited aerial involvement, but I got to be on stage making jokes and interacting with all the performers.
And where did this take place?
So our first run of it was at Aloft Circus Arts, and we did it for one weekend there. And super fun. It's a lovely space, great for performing. And then we did a second run of it with slightly different casting just for, time constraints, availability. The height of the ceiling changed by about 30 feet, so some acts weren't feasible, during the Chicago Circus and Performing Arts Festival. And that was at the Den Theater that year.
Where is the Den Theater?
On Milwaukee Avenue, in kind of like the Boys Town, Wicker Park area.
Okay.
I'm really bad at city geography, but I think that's accurate.
So there are lots of little theaters around Chicago,
Yes.
like the Chopin Theater and Red Orchard.
I'd love to do a show at the Chopin. They have a great rig,
They
grid
do. We were
rigging
recently
system.
there. It was great, and we saw a play called Nana, based on a novel by Emile Zola at another little show. But getting back to Yes Ma'am Circus, so Alice in Circus Land was a great success.
Yeah, it was a fun show. It was nice because we call it a plug and play show, which is a show where if one person has to drop out, as long as it's not Alice, we can fairly easily slot someone else in. So, for example, we had Camille Swift come in as a new Queen of Hearts for our show at the Den Theater, because her act was easier to fit into a low space. So it was really nice to get to work with different people and see how they interpreted the various roles differently also.
That's great. Well, you were telling me that you're in the process of planning for the next season, and it sounded exciting. When does the next season begin?
As far as I can tell, the seasons don't stop. They just kind of keep going. Mm-hmm. But we do have a bit of a pause on shows after the September Night Out in the Parks shows. Mm-hmm. So, we have July shows. We have August, where we travel to Gen Con in Indianapolis. If you're nerdy, come see Circus Dungeon Crawl. It's unlike any other show we do. It's very adult. There's a lot of mature content, but it's very fun and nerdy. And then we have our September Night Out in the Parks shows, where we go back to being G-rated, kid-friendly. And then in April is my hope, April 2025, we are going to have the 4th year of the Chicago Circus and Performing Arts Festival, where for the past 3 years, we've had about 10, usually, distinct companies performing anywhere from 10 to 14 unique shows.
Wow.
They're all ticketed. Yeah, it's a lot. All the shows are ticketed. We try and keep the prices consistent across the board. Mm-hmm. So you can go to any of the shows, kind of mix and match, whatever you vibe. And those really do run the gamut. We've had Scott Priz directed his first show as part of that, which is funny because he's been performing for years. But his first time producing with Jim was for the amazing Prizzini brothers in their own cabaret show. And that's just been a delightful audience favorite this year. Wonderful for kids. My kids absolutely loved it, wouldn't stop talking about it. And then on the other hand, we had Hot Clown Sex by the Hot Clown Company, which was a very bawdy, very 21 plus, slightly uncomfortable, but very, very funny and sensual clown show. There were not words. It has to be seen to be understood.
But you were telling me something that was just incredible that you were planning for that you hope to do in the next season.
So those have been our past 3 years, and for this future one, I'm hoping to do a bit of a change, and my plan is to make a festival that's entirely focused on climate change and sustainability. Because so one thing you may not know about me is I come from a family of scientists. I am the only person in my family who has gone professionally into the arts. Both my parents and my stepmother have PhDs in chemistry. My little sister is currently working on her master's in materials engineering at Northwestern. My stepsister, from the other step-parent, worked for SpaceX, as did her husband, until Elon got too toxic, and now they do super awesome sustainable work with nuclear fission and solar panels. So a lot of nerds in my family, a lot of science, and a really big focus on climate change and sustainability and what we can do for the environment. And I think one of the ways in which we fall short as people in that is in getting the information from scientists to lay people in a way that is not just understandable, but tangible and emotionally visceral. Because we don't all do well with data. You can tell me that there's a lot of plastic in the oceans, and I go, oh yes, that is sad. I understand that this is a bad thing. But if you show me, you know, a penguin with the bottle thing around their neck, that's much more impactful.
I saw that. That was big.
It's awful. Or like the whole push against straws because the straw up the nose. But we knew that those were a problem before. You could have looked this up. But people struggle with that. We need the anecdotal, we need the emotional, we need the tangible. And so the way I've been kind of describing it in my head and to others is I want the festival to be like a super fancy meal where you go and you get a wine pairing with every course, except in this case, you're going to get a science talk and explanation and performance art. And every short lecture or sharing of research or Q&A session is also going to be paired with an artistic performance that's vibing on the same theme. So there's so many artists doing amazing work with the idea of sustainability and climate change and protecting the environment. And so I'm really excited to work with several of them. One who I'm hoping we're going to be able to get, who is interested in coming, is Amy Engelhart, a solo one-woman artist. She had a show at the most recent festival. She's won so many awards. It was amazing to work with her.
So again, you're pairing science and art.
Yeah.
So to give a message.
Yeah, to really kind of drive home the point of whatever the scientific talk is. If we're talking about plastics, a show that then incorporates plastics in the costumes, or that deals with the theme of being, trapped or garbage or recycling.
All of the plastic boxes that we get now, I mean, maybe you can make a costume out of that.
Yeah, I saw a fantastic show in New York during the APAP conference in January of this year, where all the dancers looked like strange sea creatures with like super extended limbs, but their costumes were entirely plastic bags.
If someone wanted to find out more information, I mean, and we showed the flyer, is there a number or a website that you can tell us about?
So if you want to kind of keep track of what Yes Ma'am is doing, we have yesma'amcircus.org. We also have a Facebook page. And if you're interested in the festival, that is ccpaf.org, Chicago Circus and Performing Arts Festival.org. Currently, it has the news from last year. It'll be updated when we get a bit closer to having a venue and having a set date. You can also follow us on our Facebook page. That's where most main announcements are made.
So on Facebook, Instagram too?
You can follow Instagram if you want to see 1 to 2 posts a year that someone who is not me does. I am not great at the grams.
They've changed it a little bit. It's a little bit harder, but Instagram you can also post on Facebook. So it's sort of a nice resource. It is. So again, Sunday at what park?
Sunday is at Big Marsh from 2 to 3 p.m.
And
it's
Big
totally
Marsh
free.
Is located at?
South. It's at 1155-9 South Stony Island Avenue. It's also a gorgeous nature center and nature preserve. So if you want to go for a nice walk or bike ride around the area, I encourage you to take advantage of that whole zone because it's really lovely.
And then the next show will be in September.
The next show's in September, yeah. So you have a bit of time, unless you want to come to Indianapolis and watch us perform at Gen Con.
Well, that sounds great. It's and then for next year. So I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing everything with us because I had no idea.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful to be here.
Each show I've had the privilege of bringing incredible stories of people doing extraordinary things, from basically grassroots to really trying to make a change. And here you want to make a change not only through art but through science, to do something about climate change and the environment and everything else. So you are an advocate for change, and I want to thank you for coming on the show, and hope that everyone will look for Yes Ma'am Circus on Facebook and attend some of the shows. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.